Good morning, Wache, bonjour. I'm Charlie Angus here on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation, Parliament Hill, Canada, to talk about where we stand with the latest threats from Donald Trump. Once again, he's huffing and puffing and threatening to blow our nation away. And like last time, as soon as Canada stands up and shows that we are not afraid, suddenly the MAGA crew start backpedaling and maybe there's going to be a deal in the works. Maybe they're going to have something figured out. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not here to give anyone false hope, because Canadians understand that this is not a trade war we're talking about. This is a war by other means. A war of disinformation and ridicule, questioning our right to exist, our sovereignty, our borders, very much the way Vladimir Putin launched his disinformation war in the years leading up to the brutal invasion of Ukraine. It's a siege war. He's poking us and trying to see if there's divisions, if there's fear. What he's learning very quickly, and what the world is learning, is that Canadians know what is at stake, and we will not bend or break. Because Donald Trump believes we have no right as a nation, and we will always be there for our nation. But I want to compare what's happening in Canada to the dumpster fire USA. Because what we've seen in just 60 days is that Donald Trump has burned up the great American century. He's burned through his alliances with key allies. He's burned through Americans' leadership role on the international stage with his disgusting attack on President Zelensky and his willingness to put America on side with North Korea and Russia. So this is how the great American century ends. It's not with a bang or with a whimper. It's like some kind of tacky roadshow from the World Wrestling Federation. And now Donald Trump has decided to go further by blowing apart the greatest economic trade relationship in history, plunging our nation and our people into chaos. But what he's really doing is making America weaker, more divided, more alone. And we know that Canada will stand up and Canada will push back, and American jobs will suffer, and the American economy is suffering. So now the world looks to Canada and wonders, well, just who are these Canadians? Do they have what it takes to stand up to the Proud Boys in Washington? They're learning very quickly that yes, we're a nation that we like to squabble, and we like to disagree with one another, but when you come at us, we come back hard. Call it our Juno Beach gene. Canadians understand what's ahead. They know that this is going to be hard. They know that people will suffer and that there will families who will be hurt. There's no getting around that. But they also know that Canadians will stand together, just as we've always stood. I want to give a shout out this morning, and it's why I'm here, to the amazing leaders who are on the front lines defending Canada. The countless Canadians who've been reaching out to me about canceling vacations to Arizona, canceling honeymoons in South Carolina, canceling business trips and conventions in Vermont and Florida. People who've taken a personal cost. Now that might not seem like a big deal, but these are the decisions being made at kitchen tables across our nation to stand with Canada or to give in. I want to give a shout out to the mums and the grandmoms who call me from all across this nation, who tell me they take that extra time in the grocery store to make sure that nothing from the United States ends up in their grocery baskets. A big shout out to the Canadian artists who are boycotting South by Southwest in Texas this year, the biggest music festival for Canadian artists, a decision that will cost their careers, but they would rather stand up for Canada than be divided. And I want to give a special shout out to the new Canadian voices that I heard on CBC yesterday, the people, first-generation Canadians in Scarborough, who are on the lowest part of the economic rung, who they know when economic hard times come, they're going to take the first hit. And they talked about how proud they were, how they felt more unified as being Canadian than ever before. And that's the issue that I'm here to point out. Because in America right now, Donald Trump and the MAGA crew want to have a nation run by white men for white men. And they think that makes them tough. And they look on us and think we're weak because we're decent and we're democratic and we're inclusive. But that is our strength. Because we're not afraid about what pronouns someone uses. We're not angry by who someone marries. We come together across racial lines. We celebrate our linguistic diversity. We celebrate our regional diversity. We celebrate the fact that we are a settler population on the Indigenous territories of this nation. And yeah, we get a lot wrong. And yeah, we're a work in progress. But when push comes to shove, we are indivisible. We stand together. We are one. It's that diversity that makes us strong. So I want to thank everybody who's been pulling their load and to say to them, whether or not this tariff war ends tomorrow or whether Donald comes up with some bogus reason that he's scored a victory, you know what's at stake. This is just the beginning. The next 4 years will determine our future as a nation. And I know the Canadians will be strong. Because as Winston Churchill said, we will mete out for you everything that you try to throw at us, and we will go one step further. Donald, you do your worst, because Canadians will do their best. We are true, north, strong, free, and it's elbows up time. Ladies and gentlemen, Canada will never bend. We will never kiss the gangster's ring. Thank you. Take any questions.
Mr. Angus, taking in Stephanie Levitz, the Globe and Mail, taking in sort of everything you just said, do you think we need an election?
I believe right now the best thing we could do is come back to Parliament, as our leader Jagmeet Singh has said. I think we need to put a plan on the table that shows that Canada parliamentarians are as united as our country. I'd like to hear from the Prime Minister if there is a plan. I know that they have their leadership race, but right now I think, given what we're facing, we need to be here.
I wonder what your sense is about why your leader and your party right now are losing support both to the Liberals and the Conservatives.
Well, you know, I've seen a lot of polls. Polls don't mean much to me right now. I think my focus right now is Canada. I think Canadians want to see that we're going to stand up for them.
Do you want to stay in politics?
Oh, I'm not leaving politics in a second. I'm just not going to be in Parliament. But, you know, as Tom Joad said, wherever someone's going to be pushed around, I'll be there. The fight continues.
That was cryptic. What are you going to do?
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
NDP, maybe? Can your guy hang on?
You know, it was amazing. I ran for the leadership of the NDP in 2017, and I don't know if there are any Trivia Pursuit nuts out there, the ones who are real geeks. I came in second. So that was my experience, and I am going to be where I'm going to be, and it's not going to be in Parliament. Thank you.
And Mr. Angus, Anya Kudalia from the Canadian Press. The Prime Minister said yesterday that Donald Trump wants to weaken us economically so that he can annex us. Do you agree with that assessment? What's your view of his ultimate goal?
When the Prime Minister of our country talks about a foreign leader trying to take our nation over, we have to take that seriously. We have now come to realize that we have 5,000 miles of undefended border with what has become a very malignant threat, a threat to democracy, a threat to our values, a threat to our sovereignty. So I think we have to take this moment very seriously, and this is why, standing up at this trade war, we see that Donald Trump doesn't have the backbone and will not have the backbone to take us on. But he will continue, and if we start to show weakness, then our future will be at stake.
And you talked about how Canadians are, buying Canadian, not buying from American companies. What do you think the government should be doing in terms of procurement, things that they buy from American companies?
The government needs to be out there with Canadians. We need to have a really strong position that we are not going to involve ourselves with any American contracts. I want to know if Doug Ford, he signed with Elon, then he canceled with Elon, then he signed again with Elon, then he canceled again with Elon. Make sure that that Elon Musk deal is stopped dead in its tracks. And my other concern is Elections Canada. I've been writing to them whether or not they're willing to step up to deal with electoral interference from Elon Musk, from X, from the American actors who we see are undermining elections in Europe. I don't believe that Elections Canada is ready. I don't think they have the tools. This is another question, does this have to come back to the Canadian Parliament? But we cannot be naive and think that we are not going to suffer from major interference from the malignant actors who are in Washington right now.
And what kind of interference are you afraid of from X, from Elon Musk, or any other kind of tech player?
We saw that in Germany, German government went to the courts to get access to the X algorithm. This is something I asked Elections Canada to do, to determine whether or not Elon Musk was interfering with the X algorithm to support far-right parties in Germany. We've seen that the Musk algorithm has been used to promote deep racial divisions in the UK. But the other element, what I just learned when I was in Europe recently at the NATO meetings, is the real concern that J.D. Vance is undermining actively democratic countries like Romania and promoting the far right. So given the threats that have been made against our nation, given the fact that they don't believe we have a right to exist, given the fact that we're going to be going into an election, the idea that we are not ready to deal, whether or not we need to shut that platform down during the campaign if it's being used to manipulate voters, we need to have tools in place. And I've asked Elections Canada on a number of occasions if they're willing to take this on. I don't get a sense that they are, but I think that this is a serious threat to our democracy. Thank you. Thank you.